Alright, what's going on, guys? With the recent announcement of Elden Ring DLC earlier this week, there's a lot of discussion trying to break down the lore and predict exactly what's going to be on the contents of the story and the new things the game might add. Yesterday, there were some interesting discussions circulating about a few leaks that actually came out, saying that they know when the DLC is going to release. Now, originally, I wasn't going to cover this leak. I honestly thought it was just another offhanded prediction, but then you guys started telling me about the leaker's credibility, and then the leak was corroborated by another insider. So what we have today is something that may actually have some ground to it, and we have to at least acknowledge that it may be true. So as always, when it comes to these kind of things, take it as nothing more than just a thought in the back of your mind. This is not official information. So as we dive into that today, you guys know we're chasing down 100k subs here on the channel. We cover all things Elden Ring and FromSoftware, so if you want to stay up to date on all the latest discussion, then do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. The next video is going to be a deep dive into the lore of the DLC image that we got, so I hope you look forward to that. But now with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into this article. Depending on how you want to look at things, this could be some very good or very bad news. The article is titled, Armored Core 6 has a September to October release window. The plan is to get the game out before Shadow of the Erdtree expansion. Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon was announced late last year with little further information to go by. Not to mention radio silence on the game's release date. The mech combat title was showcased, however, with a quality cinematic trailer where FromSoftware confirmed that a 6th installment in the series is indeed coming. Sources have now revealed that the developers have planned a release window that falls between September and October for Armored Core 6. Unless further internally delayed, there are more chances for the title to launch in late September rather than getting pushed to some time in October. Additionally, it was disclosed to me that FromSoftware wants to get Armored Core 6 out before releasing the Shadow of the Erdtree expansion for Elden Ring. And then the article just goes on to describe Armored Core. So before we break all this down, let me go ahead and tell you about the source of this. The author of the article is Ecstasis TV, I think I'm saying that right. Now, I've never heard of this guy before. I did some asking around, I even tried to reach out to them, but I was unable to. From what I was told, they have been responsible for some very big leaks in the past. But I also heard that they've been wrong about some things before. So they're not a great source. But I do also have to at least acknowledge that they are followed by Jeff Keighley, so some possible connections there. Now, at this point, I wasn't going to cover this story just because I don't really trust this source. I've never heard of them, but then one of you guys in the Elden Ring community reached out to Jeff Grubb and said, Jeff, what chances do you give of that one source story about Armored Core 6 being planned for September through October, with Elden Ring DLC coming afterward, being a trusted source? I'm really hoping I don't have to wait that long for DLC and figured we should wait for more corroboration before assuming this is true. To which Jeff Grubb responded, that story is accurate. Now, I wasn't familiar with the first leaker, but I am very familiar with Jeff Grubb. Jeff Grubb is a longtime gaming insider and has been a pretty credible leaker for a while. Now, the thing with Jeff Grubb is, he says a lot of stuff, and a lot of times his speculation is taken as a leak. And so while some of his leaks have been wrong in the past, there's way too many that have been right to ignore. Some of you guys might remember him talking about Elden Ring, leaking that it was going to be showcased at Summer Games Fest after the long hiatus, which was a pretty big one. Now, we have to keep in mind here that he's not the one actively leaking the info about the release dates here, he's just corroborating it. So for him to just have heard the information aside from the article, I don't think is out of the realm of possibility at all. Now, does that mean the information is true? Absolutely not. All that means is that we have a situation here where it can't be ignored. Like I said, there's enough here for us to at least acknowledge the idea, and I figured I should let you guys know about it. But now that we have the information and the sources, let's talk about the logistics of this. The first claim that the article makes is that Armored Core 6 is currently planned to release in September, and I think that is a very realistic idea, but it would also be a very easy guess. Let's think about timing for a minute. September places it in the perfect spot for a marketing campaign to begin soon, run through the summer, and then for the game to release before the big holiday rush. Now, given this context, it is kind of fishy that pre-orders have just gone live at many of the major retailers such as Amazon, Target, Best Buy, and GameStop, but personally, I don't read into that a whole lot. There's also the fact that we don't currently have a release date for it, which suggests that the game isn't going to be releasing very soon, but we also know that it's going to be releasing in 2023. So again, September is very realistic, but also a very easy guess. There's really not a whole lot to say about it here. I do find it interesting that they mention delays in relation to Armored Core 6, because this game has been in development for a very long time, longer than pretty much any recent FromSoftware game, and Miyazaki said that it was in the final stages of development back in June of last year. So September would be a very comfortable release date internally for them to not have to sweat about it. My only issue here is that I don't think Armored Core is going to be nearly as big of a hit as Elden Ring was. Not because of anything that's wrong with the game, game, just because it's a very different genre that many of the new fans aren't going to be used to. And for it to be sandwiched between Elden Ring and Elden Ring DLC, that gives fans the option to just skip Armored Core and wait for the Elden Ring DLC to drop. But that's just entirely unfounded speculation on my part. Now let's talk about the DLC releasing after that date. That would imply the Elden Ring DLC releases 2 years after the game came out. And while I really don't want to wait another year for DLC, I don't think that's an entirely crazy idea. And here's why. Shadow of the Erdtree is the first time FromSoftware is referring to a DLC as an expansion. And pretty much every Bandai account is calling it that as well. Normally they just say DLC. And this also comes after Lance McDonald claimed the DLC was going to be huge. So we have a few possibilities here. If this leak is true, and I'm not saying it is, they either just now started development, or we have a massive DLC on the way. To put it in perspective, Dark Souls 3 had both its DLCs out 1 year after its release. Bloodborne took the longest to get DLC at 8 months. Now granted, Elden Ring is orders of magnitude larger than both of those games, but it does get me excited at the thought of what they could cook up in 2 years. It could almost be a whole nother game. But here's why that might make some more sense as well. As I've been trying to tell you guys, it does seem like FromSoftware is working on an annual release basis now, where they have one major project releasing every year. Miyazaki also stated that he's working on several projects at once right now. So if we have Armored Core releasing in 2023, and Shadow of the Erdtree being the major release of 2024, that would be plenty of time to announce the next game after that release, and then give it the marketing it deserves. That's just how my mind is justifying this release date. And again, that's going off the assumption that this leak is true, which, as I stated, we have no proof of. Now, the other thing I want to mention about this is what it would mean for this announcement that we just got. It's not really like FromSoftware to tease a DLC that's a year away like this. They've never done that with any of their other game DLCs. They've typically announced them 2 months before their release. But Elden Ring is an entirely different animal. They gave us a trailer back in 2019 and then went over 2 years with radio silence. So trying to predict what they're doing with this game is really a fruitless effort, as we've learned. So if Shadow of the Erdtree is going to be basically a whole nother Elden Ring game, then maybe a year between tease and release would make sense. Anyways though guys, that's just my wild speculation about this topic. You can take it or leave it. I know I literally just made a video saying I was done speculating about this kind of stuff. And of course, literally the day after I say that, we get the announcement that we were waiting for the entire time. So I don't know anymore. Regardless, I thought you guys should at least know about this leak. There's enough here that warrants a discussion and entertaining the idea at least a little bit. Please don't take this as 100% fact. It very much is not at this point, but we do have 2 sources that have leaked major things in the past agreeing on this topic. It's not like this is just a random 4chan post that we have 0 evidence whatsoever to support, which is why I thought we might as well make a video about it. Either way though, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here. Next video, if no other news comes out, is going to be another deep dive into that DLC picture, because believe it or not, there actually is quite a bit to break down that we haven't already. But with all that, I will catch you guys in the next one.